Welcome to part 2 of our spring salmon fishing video. We're down at Riding Mill, the top end of Bywell, and the river's at about 2'6", 2'7" on the gauge this morning. So, ideal conditions would be 1'9", 2 foot, but there's certainly a very good opportunity. We've actually already seen a fish off the corner of our eye. So let's go down to the river and see whether we can hook a springer. The last time I was at Bywell was pretty much this time last year, and with all the floods that we've had over this season, or the back end of last year and the very beginning of this year, it's categorically changed the riverbed massively. So the use of your wading staff is paramount to use as that ability to test the actual ground that you're then going to wade through. So don't be jovial, don't think that wading staffs are pointless and they get in the way. Use them to your advantage. Okay, so we're looking at this bit of water, and again, over the previous years we haven't necessarily fished this because I'm sure that the actual rivers changed considerably, but downstream in front of me we've got all this slackish water opposite me, and then it travels into a very nice looking V at this height of water. I'm not sure what the depth is out there, but if you're reading it from face value, then ultimately the V that comes from the tail of this pool looks an inviting place for a spring fish to lay up before it migrates slightly further up. And Riding Mill's only 250, 300 yards above us, and that's a definite temperature barrier. So the water temperature that we're in today will dictate what I'm using, and I've decided to use a 10-foot Versi leader on a short Scandi fly line. So a shooting head ultimately with a 10-foot sinking tip. And this tip sinks at about six a second, that sort of thing. So it's a relatively fast tip, okay? And I've gone with a straight through bit of nylon, which is about sort of 5.5, 6 foot. The water clarity is pretty good. And a tube fly that with the actual treble, which is a small size 10, 12, is an inch and a bit in length, with a bit of herring in there just to keep the fly stable a little bit. So we're going to go out, we're going to see how far out we can get in order to negate the angle that we're trying to fish at. There's no point trying to fish your fly too square. We've got a nice smooth current, so we're going to be able to use the mend, and therefore we're going to be able to control the speed of which we're trying to fish at. And any fish that's come up through this channel, which it looks like that's where the fish come through, they'll sit. We're going to give that fish plenty of time to see the fly. So we're going to try and get as far out as we can to try and create a very slight angle, or as slight as we can possibly create, so therefore we can control the fly much better. If you cast too square, you can't control the line, and you end up, because it's dirtyish water, you need to fish it slower. It's not like fishing in Russia where the water's very clear and the fish can see the fly for a long time. Here it's dirtier. You've probably got maybe a foot, maybe a foot and a half of clarity. So it's very important to fish your fly at a nice slow speed, and then use the density of your fly lines to get the fly to where you believe that fish is going to be. So we're going to get out there and we're going to see where we go, okay? You've just got to fish the conditions that you see, there's no benefit of getting out further, because from a safety point of view, as well as the fact that fish are going to come in on the right hand side, and we've got a little bit of debris sitting in the water there, so we're going to just avoid that. So lay the line, come further around with the tip of the rod and over the top. Nice big mend. So we're fishing 20 degrees rather than up in this part we were fishing at maybe 40, 45 degrees. And in fairness, there's not much of this pool that looks as though fish would stop, but this channel in here looks as though there might be a chance. So again, because it's unknown water, using your wading staff as a probe, and it's a very loose bank. It's a very tricky wade. I always like fishing with a loop, with a loose drag. There's hardly any. On 1 to 10, that's probably on about 2. And if a fish takes, I'm just going to let go of the loop. Fish it right round to the dangle. Right, to conclude this second part of our video on spring salmon fishing, I'd like to firstly thank Bywell for allowing us to come and utilise their water prior to our spring salmon fishing trip. Our course starts tomorrow, so hopefully the guys will learn enough to aid them for the future and develop their skills, whether that's the casting or the reading of the water. So any further information, please contact any of us at any of the stores, but please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And until next time, keep fishing, and hopefully at some point you'll bump into a springer.